Services, placement of concrete curbs, sidewalk, driveway, and paving. They pride themselves in the quality of their service, but more importantly, with the...
Okay, there you go. Hi, this is the Truth Be Told on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom, and with myself, T Baby. If you have a business or a event that you would like promoted here on KUAW, please.
Well, hello, and welcome to KUAW Radio. This is your host, Louis George Walker, or I am your host, Louis George Walker, and I want to welcome you to the BFTAA and More show. Yes, I'm doing it from my remote location in my home studio today. I'm not down at the radio station, but we're still wanting to give you all the information that we can. Thank you for listening to BFTAA and More, and for tuning in to KUAW Radio. We hope that you would tune in all the time. We're on 24 hours a day on the audio side, so if you have the TuneIn app or Get Me Radio, Online Radio Box, MyTuner, any of those sites, you can pick us up 24 hours a day. We play music, we play information, we give you a lot of news and things that you don't hear on regular radio stations right here on KUAW Radio. Yes, and then when we broadcast live, which we're doing right now, or any of our video broadcasts, we'll be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Yes, you can pick us up on all of those sites right now, so you may be listening to us on any of those, and we're glad that you're here. Also, if you have a smart speaker, you got a Google speaker, one of those Amazon speakers, just tell it to play KUAW Radio, and you'll pick us up. So just say, Alexa, play KUAW, and we'll be right there. That's right. So we've got a day. We want to bring you stuff that's coming from NASA, things that are happening in the Ukraine a little bit. And also, we want to talk to you about your financial planning just a little bit. Excuse me. But to let you know that you need to be doing that right now. So we've got a lot of information to give you. Now, the BFTAA and More show is about the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, who in partnership with the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center at 4510 East Linwood in Kansas City, Missouri, came together to form this radio station called Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. That is KUAW. And we're glad that you're here right now checking us out. We've got a lot of things. We had some fun today. My Vice President, Miguel Fernandez, and I went down to a high school, Guadalupe Centers High School, today and did some presentation of projects. We want to work with the students of Guadalupe High School, and we'll see in the next day or two if we get selected for one of those. We did a project with KUAW Radio where we would like to have the young people come in and produce a podcast and actually do some interviews for us. And also we wanted them to do some design work on our BFTAA side to design a tabletop demonstration of some STEM feature that we can take to are events that we go out and about. So we want the kids to design it, and we will display it at maker fairs and different back-to-school events and stuff that BFTAA has. So we had some fun with the kids. They were very interesting. I was telling my wife, I said they were well-mannered. They listened intently. They asked some good questions. We did 2 presentations, and then we had a question and answer session down in the gym, and we had some students stop by, wanted to know about the podcast, how we would do it, and what goes on with that. So we had a nice time down there. So I wanted to say thank you to Guadalupe Center in Kansas City, their Alta Vista schools. Had a wonderful time with you today. So hats off to Guadalupe Centers and that school, because it looks like they're doing some great things with the young people down there. But yeah, this is what we do. We like to work with the young people. The Black Family Technology Awareness Association is about closing the digital divide that exists in the African American community and in other underserved communities and rural areas in the United States. So we're about getting broadband internet in your house. You want to use broadband internet, you want to get it and use it for all the advantages and all the opportunities that it can bring, and that it can help with your family life, not just with the schools and kids' education, but with purchasing things, with doing a lot of online shopping or looking at travel information, just so much that you can do when you use the internet, which is definitely a good tool that we need to use to make our standard of living just a little bit better. All right. So before we go any further, though, we'd like to tell you that we get involved with NASA, which is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Love what they're doing. I've been a follower of NASA since I was in grade school, when John Glenn and them were going up. So you know how long ago that was. But I remember some of the first space launches, Sputnik, and all of those when I was very young. But it was a big, exciting thing in the neighborhood to see the satellites go by whenever they were visual. And the neighborhood would come outside and everybody was looking for it. And it was an exciting time. And also it showed what man can do, not just the United States, Russia, China, France. There's a lot of countries that are in the space business and doing research and developing things for travel into outer space that are very good for jobs, for our increasing our knowledge, and for helping us with things here on Earth. Because from being up in space, we can do so much more now. We can see so much more now. The GPS, all of those things that we use to travel around now, that you get lost in strange cities, was all because of man wanting to go into space. The satellites that are put up there, the travel that is up there. There's a lot of things that are beneficial that they are able to use. They can track heat signatures on the Earth. They can see where global warming is happening and detect rises in temperature, all of that. And all that's made possible by man going farther into the heavens. So, we like to talk about that because there's great opportunities. I know this is Women's History Month, and if you remember, a few years ago, there was a movie out, Hidden Figures, that showed African-American women that had been involved at NASA before it was even NASA, involved in the space program, and that there were jobs and that there were opportunities, although they had to fight for a lot of it, but there were opportunities, and there still are opportunities for some of our bright young people to get involved in. So let's look at what's happening in NASA right now. There's a new telescope up there that the world is excited about, and we are definitely excited about it. So we're going to take a little time now to see what's up this week at NASA. And we got a couple other things that we're going to look at with NASA as far as stars and stuff. But let's look at what's happening this week at NASA.
Launching a new Earth-observing satellite, things continue to line up for the James Webb Space Telescope and imagine the future of aviation. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA.
Wait a minute.
Liftoff of Noah's Ghost T, our newest.
Okay, I want to stop that for a hot second. Want to make sure we get the sound out to you. I don't know that you were able to hear that, so let's see if we can adjust this and make sure that we have everything working. I want the Let's see, monitoring output, maximum desktop audio. Oh, I don't even see this. Space to ground.
Launching a new Earth-observing satellite, things continue to line up for the James Webb Space Telescope and imagining the future of aviation. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA.
Liftoff of NOAA's GOES-T, our newest weather sample in the sky to help keep us safe here on the ground.
On March 1st, we supported the launch of NOAA's GOES-T satellite from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. GOES-T is the third satellite in the Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellites or GOES-R series. It will eventually be renamed and placed into operation as GOES-West to provide continuous coverage of weather and severe environmental conditions in the Western Hemisphere. The GOES program also predicts space weather near Earth that can interfere with satellite electronics, GPS, and radio communications. The James Webb Space Telescope team continues to work through the various phases of mirror alignment needed to perfect the observatory's focus. The team recently completed the segment alignment and image stacking phases. During these phases, they first moved Webb's mirror segments so that 18 scattered dots of starlight reflected from the same star were rearranged into Webb's signature hexagonal shape. The focused dots were then stacked on top of each other, delivering the photons of light from each mirror segment to the same location on the sensor of Webb's NIRCam instrument. In the coming weeks, the team will work to make the single dot of starlight progressively sharper and more focused. On March 1st through the 3rd, we hosted Imagine Aviation, a virtual event that showcased the future transformation of aviation. The three-day event featured our Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy and others discussing NASA's efforts to improve the sustainability of aviation while contributing to the Biden-Harris administration's efforts to tackle climate change. It was also an opportunity for participants to learn how NASA aeronautics projects and technologies are building a safer flying experience for all. Inside the Vehicle Assembly Building at our Kennedy Space Center, teams have retracted the first of the 20 work platforms surrounding our Artemis I moon rocket. The platforms, which enable crews to work on the Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft, have been moved in anticipation of rolling out the integrated spacecraft to the launch pad ahead of the uncrewed Artemis I mission around the moon. The 4-mile trek to the launch pad is currently targeted to begin on March 17th. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, follow us on the web at nasa.gov/twan.
That's what's going on this week in NASA, and we're so glad that we got a chance to show that to you in a little bit. But that James Webb Telescope is really being able to bring some good shots of deep space that are going to be really getting sharper and sharper. So we're going to see things that we haven't seen before with that telescope. So that's going to be a great thing for us and for science, basically to learn more about the universe and what all is going on in other galaxies far, far away from us. Yes. So that's what's going on with NASA. Now, did you check out that they're getting ready to get the rocket that's going to be taking man back to the moon, the Artemis program? And, it really seems strange, but that big rocket, they bring it out with the tractor, and it takes it days to travel that 4 miles. It's moving real slow and easy with it and stuff, but they roll it out there and get it into the launch platform and getting things ready. I don't know exactly when the launch is scheduled for. I'll have to look that up. But we're going to be going back to the moon. There's going to be, I think, the first African-American female to actually go to the moon is going to be part of the Artemis program. So there's a lot of firsts that will be happening with it. And as we go back to the moon and start thinking about longer stays and setting up stations on the moon, that's going to really be time. And for those that are involved in that, and not just that you have to be an astronaut and go to the moon and stuff, but all of the employees working at all the different launch facilities, all the different rocket companies, engine making companies, electronics companies, all of that it's what it takes to get there. So there's a huge array of jobs and specialties that we need to be getting our young people prepared for so that they can fit into them. Even in psychology, even doctors and nurses, all of that, NASA has to use as they look at going to deep space and how do you do the research on it? How do you find how a man is going to perform and how their mental state, all of that is something that's going to be looked at and that we need experts working on it. So for your young people, be looking at that. That's something that you can go into. Now we've got another shot of NASA, and that's called What's Up at NASA. So that's going to come out, and they'll give you some of the same information, but a little bit different take on some of what NASA's doing. So let's sit back and check out what's up at NASA. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, this is going to tell you about the stars and what to look for in the night sky as we come up now. So check this out. If you're a star watcher, if you want to start looking into the skies or gazing at the skies and seeing what you can see, these are things you can see without a telescope or even with just binoculars or just going out on a clear night, and you'll be able to pick up some of this information or some of these sites that they're talking about. So let's check this out. What's up at NASA?
What's up for March? Meet the morning planets, the nearest star cluster, and some do-it-yourself exoplanets. Saturn joins Venus and Mars this month in the morning sky. Beginning around March 18th or 19th, early risers may notice Saturn steadily moving toward Mars and Venus each day to form a trio low in the east before sunrise. The crescent moon joins the crowd on the 27th and 28th. Saturn and Mars are headed toward a super close meeting at the start of April. More about that in next month's video. Look high in the southwest on March evenings and you'll find the tall, Y-shaped constellation Taurus, the Bull. And at the center of Taurus, forming the Bull's base, is a group of stars known as the Hyades star cluster. It's the closest open star cluster to our solar system, containing hundreds of stars. Now, an open cluster is a group of stars that are close together in space and loosely bound together by their mutual gravity. These are stars that formed together around the same time from the same cloud of dust and gas. Over time, they blow away that leftover nebula material and drift apart. Because of this and their open or diffuse structures, they're called open clusters. Our own sun formed in a cluster like this, and studying these structures helps us understand how stars form and evolve. Another well-known open cluster is the Pleiades, which is also located in Taurus. The Hyades and the Pleiades are actually about the same size at about 15 or so light years across, but the Pleiades is about 3 times farther away, so it appears more compact. You don't need a telescope to find the Hyades. Look for this V-shaped grouping of stars in Taurus. Use the stars of Orion's belt as a handy pointer, leading you to bright orange Aldebaran. Aldebaran isn't actually part of the star cluster. It's located halfway to the Hyades and just happens to appear in the foreground. So check out the Hyades in March, where you'll see a handful of stars with the unaided eye and more than 100 with binoculars. March skies contain several easy-to-find bright stars that are known to have planets of their own orbiting around them. Locate these distant suns for yourself, and you'll know you're peering directly at another planetary system. First is Epsilon Tauri, the right eye of Taurus, the Bull. This orange dwarf star has a gas giant planet around 8 times the mass of Jupiter. Next is 7 Canis Majoris. This is the star at the heart of the Dog constellation that contains blazing bright Sirius. This star is known to have 2 planets, a gas giant nearly twice the mass of Jupiter and another just a little smaller than Jupiter. Moving on, we find Tau Geminorum, the star at the heart of Castor, northernmost of the twins in Gemini. Tau Geminorum has a huge gas giant planet 20 times the mass of Jupiter in an orbit only slightly larger than that of Earth. And finally, wheeling around to the north is Beta Ursae Minorus, the brightest star in the bowl of the Little Dipper. This star has a 6 Jupiter mass planet in orbit around it. Researchers expect that most stars have a family of planets orbiting them because forming planets is a natural part of forming stars. And now you know how to find a few of them yourself, no telescope required. Here are the phases of the moon for March. Stay up to date with all of NASA's missions to explore the solar system and beyond at nasa.gov. I'm Preston Dykes from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that's what's up for this month.
Okay, so that's the thing that you want to do. You want to make sure that you look up in the night sky to see if you can see some of these things without the need of even having a binoculars or a telescope that you can just see with the naked eye. There's a lot that you can see out there from just looking up in the night sky as opposed to having to buy some equipment. So this is something that you can do with just your eyes. If you get a pair of binoculars or a telescope, you can see even more. But it's easy to get out there and see a little bit and enjoy the night sky. So that's what's happening or what's up in the sky for March. We have that every month. That NASA puts that out to let you know what you can see in each month of the year. So hope you check that out. Now, the last bit we got from NASA is space to ground. So we'll go into that, and then we'll get into a little bit of what we want to talk about as far as your finances and stuff. So here we go with space to ground.
Thousand words, but images from the Crew Earth observation experiment have value that is beyond words. Crew members aboard the space station use a wealth of digital cameras to record how the planet is changing over time. One study used satellite imagery and data pulled from crew photographs to computationally model nighttime light. It provides a unique perspective of light spectrum signatures and the difference between outdoor lamp types, resulting in statistical maps of the relative contribution of different lamp types. You can access more than 3 million astronaut-taken Earth images online, thanks in large part to the Crew Earth Observations experiment. There is an old proverb that the month of March comes in like a lion and goes out like a lamb. Well, the opposite can be said for this March, at least in human spaceflight. Activities on orbit start to rev up on March 15th when Aldebaran and Raja Shari step out of the airlock to prepare the station for the next installment of the Ursa power channels. As always, you can see the spacewalk on NASA TV, nasa.gov, or the NASA app. We will have a preview of all spacewalk activities for the month when we host a briefing from Houston. March 15th will also mark a milestone as NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hei will surpass Scott Kelly as the U.S. record holder for the longest single spaceflight. A few days later, on March 18th, the Soyuz MS-21 crew launches from the Baikonur Cosmodrome and arrives to the space station just 2 orbits later. Then, the crew is outside the space station again on March 23rd for another U.S. spacewalk, where they will replace the radiator beam valve module hoses. On March 30th, the undocking and landing of Soyuz MS-19 will return NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hei and Russian cosmonaut Fyodor Dubrov to Earth following the American record of 355 days in space. And finally, at the end of the month, the launch from Florida of the Axiom Space AX-1 mission, the first all-private crew to visit the space station. You can stay updated on everything on station by following us on Twitter at @space_station. That's Spacetogram for this week. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
All right. Yes. So that's it. That's what we have from NASA. 3 bits. Usually we just do 2, space to ground, and this week. But at the first of the month, we like to bring you what's up so you'll know what to look at in the night sky. If you forget and you want to look at this again, you can always go back to this show. This is the BFTAA and More show. and you'll be able to pull it up because it's the first one of the month, and you will see that same bit, so you can find out, or you don't have to try and remember what stars are going to be up or where you need to look. You can just get us back up, and you can see that. But now, getting back to Earth, we're not going to stay up there in space. We got to talk about what we're doing here on Earth. And a lot of us have been talking about generational wealth, how to build that up and how to have it. Well, building it up is going to take us to do some work. And that's the thing that we have to do, because we're finding out that it's still, we talk about it, but we're not doing about it. I had an article that come out of Your Black World. If you haven't checked it out online and stuff, Your Black World has a lot of good information in it, but it shows, this is from Victor Tremel. It says, report shows racial disparities where newer generations are inheriting trillions of dollars. So there's still racial disparities, even though newer generations are inheriting trillions of dollars. It says, per a new publication from FINRA, the Cerilli Associates examination of the high and ultra-high net worth sector suggests that billions of wealth will be handed down to younger generations by 2047. However, owing to a paucity of estate planning in Black America, monies or any form of wealth are not being passed down to future generations. We are not passing down what we've accumulated as well as we should. Yeah, it is no secret that in general, Black Americans have less to pass on. We know that. According to the Federal Reserve's 2019 study, it says that of consumer finance, that white families have a median wealth of $188,200, while Black households have a median worth of $24,100. So there's a big gap when the average white median family is $188,200, and Black households median worth is about $24,100. So it's not that we have a whole lot to pass down, but still, are we doing it? It says, however, the Federal Reserve also reported that Black Americans seldom provide inheritance for the little they are able to obtain collectively. So we're not passing down what we do have. We don't have but, let's say, $24,000 on average, but we're not passing that down. So what do they say? If they give you more, would you be able to do any more with it if you're not doing much with what you have now? If we talk about that, if you don't know how to manage and do with what you've got, why should you have more that you wouldn't know how to manage and deal with? So we need to look at that. Experts are now advising Black Americans to complete estate planning. You need to start doing planning, which is the process of deciding who will inherit a person's belongings when they die. Automobiles, cash, real estate, and investments are all examples of this. When individuals don't arrange their estates before they die, their belongings are vulnerable to municipal and state regulation as well as family feuds. We've all heard about that, families fighting over things because it wasn't directed as who gets what. And then you get lawyers involved, or you have to go through probate, and before you know it, what money was there or what things were there has gotten smaller and smaller because there was no estate plan. Although many people dread discussing death, it is unavoidable. We know we're going to die. You might not want to talk about it, but nobody lives forever. So NerdWallet provides a 7-step method for estate planning. Take an inventory of your physical real estate, automobiles, and collectibles, and intangible assets is the first stage in wealth and estate planning. The stocks, bonds, retirement plans, life insurance policies. All of that, we need to have it down somewhere and where somebody can get it and have access to it so that we know what we want to do. But as the adult, you have to make those plans, and it's never too early to start making those plans. If you're living on your own, if you have a job, if you have insurance policies and stuff, you need to be doing estate planning. You may not have a large estate right now, but what you have, you can start and then you can continually add as it goes along. One of the reasons for the rarity of estate and asset planning among Black Americans is a lack of financial knowledge. According to the TIAA Institute Personal Finance Index for 2021, Black Americans successfully answered 38% of the study's financial literacy questions, while white Americans, on the other hand, properly identified 55% of the questions. So none of us is doing real great. A little more than half of the questions doesn't, if you got 55% when you were in school, that was pretty much a failing grade. So as Americans in general, we're not doing good. But as Black Americans, we're even doing less than good. So we need to look at that. We couldn't answer the financial literacy questions. That means there's something that we need to work on. We need to be looking at our financial literacy. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to try and learn about it and try to talk to estate planners. My wife and I hadn't did that until she was retired and I was getting ready to retire, and we got a financial planner, and she said, "Do you have an estate plan?" No, we didn't. And we had got recommended to a lawyer, and we sat down with them and we wrote it out. We did an estate plan. That's a thing you need to do as to what goes to which children, or how to divide it evenly so that you don't have the fights over it. And even of your personal possessions, there can be things like chairs or a car or a family picture or anything like that can become an issue in the family. And not only does it hurt the estate plan, but it may hurt family relationships because nobody took the time to look it up or to put it down in advance. So, just to give you a little bit of information on that, it says family planning is estate planning is not just for the rich. So here's 5 estate planning tools that everyone needs. It's not a lot, and it's just to get you to think about it, but you need to talk to somebody. I am not a financial planner. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just reading you some stuff, giving you some information, but don't take it that I told you to do this. Do some research yourself. Do some research yourself. Whatever you hear from me, take it with a grain of salt until you do some research yourself. Okay? Okay, reading this article that came from Finura, and that's another website posted by Femi Lewis on February the 3rd of 2022. And it says, when hip-hop artist DMX died in 2021, he left no will in place and very few liquid assets. While DMX's estimated 15 children are expecting to share a share of his $1 million estate, it has been tied up in probate court for months. In addition, an estate has to be established to manage any expected future earnings from his music. Yet, with no appointed administrators and costly probate attorney fees, DMX's estate will be dwindling until the proceedings are finalized. So that's the thing you have to look at. Now, here's DMX left with no will. He had no will. So not only his kids right now aren't getting any of the money, but the money's getting smaller because lawyer fees mount up. As people are talking about it, as they're fighting over it. And if he's got 15 children, $1 million or $2 million is going to be divided down quite a bit. And if lawyers and probate proceedings eat up even more of that, and then who's going to set up the plan for his future earnings? So that estate, those are some things that need to be set up. And it says, although music superstar Prince died in 2016, his $156 million estate was just settled in January 2022. Why? Because he left no will. So Prince didn't have a will. 50-something years old, but he had no will. He's making money. He's got lawyers around him, got everything, but nobody talked to him about estate planning. So now they just settled it, and he died 6 years ago. So that's that, and you can bet that a lot of lawyer fees got used in that, to where if you just wrote a will, they know right off the bat, the court can look at it and say, hey, this person gets this person gets that, this person gets that. It's done. The will is there, it's done, it's over with that. So like DMX and Prince, many Black Americans have failed to participate in estate planning. That's something that we need to be doing. We got to do that. We got to get in the process. Only about a third of blacks who have a will. So there's only a third of blacks who have a will. A foundandcaring.com survey said. But the percentage has increased since 2020. The number of black Americans who have completed a will has increased by 6.2%, from 25.9% to 27.5%. So we're doing better. An estimated 35% of white Americans have wills. So it's a lot of us that don't have wills, not just black people. And this is something that you have to look at. Do you have a will? Have you thought about it? Estate planning will allow you to remain in control of your assets while contributing to your family's generational wealth. So we can talk about generational wealth and you want to pass it on, or you're getting generational wealth for your children and stuff. But do you have an estate plan? If you were to walk out and get hit by a car or a lightning bolt strike you and you died tonight, is there a plan? Not I'm going to get one, but do you have one? So as we talk about generational wealth and making generational wealth, we can't look at the past and say what they didn't do. It's what are we doing in the here and now for generational wealth. We indeed, to bust this myth, that it's just for the rich, or when the idea that when I die, I don't have to do any planning, it will just go to my children. That's not going to happen. Sheila Samuels, estate planning attorney with Samuels Law, told FINRA. So we need to bust that myth that it's just for rich people, or that your children will get it automatically. You don't know that if you haven't made a plan. Now, Sheila Samuels continued saying, estate planning is not just about when you die. It is actually about what happens during your lifetime. It's really about taking control over what happens. You have a say in who can make decisions, who inherits your assets, or who can oversee your estate. What if your kids are young? Then who's going to take care of the estate? Yeah, you left $1 million to your kid, but your kid is 2 years old. So have you assigned someone that you trust to be able to take care of that? So these are all things that we have to look at. So it says, Samuel said there are 5 tools necessary to create a comprehensive estate plan. Of course, it is necessary to consult with an attorney in your state to understand your specific state laws. The key is to be proactive and don't wait for the crisis to occur, Samuel said. When you wait, your options can sometimes be limited and will cost you more money. When you plan, you are able to think in an objective manner. Number one thing you should have is a last will and testament. Your will establishes the distribution of your individual assets. There are several sources online to help you in creating your own will if you want to avoid having an attorney draft one. After it is complete, you must sign your will in front of witnesses to make it legally valid. In your will, it is advisable to appoint an executor to act as your representative. The executor will be responsible for paying your final expenses and taxes before distributing your assets. A will must be filed in probate court after your death. A will is especially important if you have underage children, and this will be the only way they can have a guardian designated for them. So think about that. If you've got a young family, you still need a will. Then a trust. It is not uncommon for someone to choose a trust over a will because you can avoid probate. And this is still from Sheila Samuels, the attorney. Probate court can become a costly cost for your descendants to inherit. Instead, using a trust is a simple, efficient administration of your estate. A trustee will distribute assets easily and effectively to all beneficiaries. A durable power of attorney. Number 3. Have you ever considered what would happen if you become mentally or physically incapacitated? A power of attorney is an essential document that allows you to identify another person to act on your behalf as your agent or attorney in fact. The appointed person will handle financial decisions on your behalf, such as real estate transactions and banking transactions, insurance, Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid planning. If you don't have an appointed power of attorney, then guardianship will need to be appointed. And then you need to also have a health care proxy. We also don't know how an illness or an accident will affect our ability to make medical decisions for ourselves. A health care proxy will allow someone that you have appointed to make medical decisions in the event that you can't. And then a living will is number 5. If you are faced with a terminal illness or death is imminent, you need to document what treatments or medications you would like administered. Without a living will in place, someone else will be responsible for making decisions about your life. While our family members and friends will often do what is in our best interest, a living will allows you to remain in control of your life. You are putting people on notice that this is what I want and don't want. So you got to look at that. Estate planning is always going to place you in control of your affairs. With an estate plan, you will possess control over your affairs. You will leave a legacy for whoever you choose, creating generational wealth. So that's the thing that we need to look at. Our financial literacy starts there. Financial planning, estate planning, all of those things, having a will, having people named in that will as to where and how you want things distributed, or a trust. Those type of things are important, and a lot of times we put them aside, or we think we don't have that much, or this, that, and the other. But it would be a shame to see siblings have to fight over that little bit that you said you didn't think was much, but they may think the world of it. And you can have siblings that end up not speaking to each other for years or a lifetime, mainly because there was no will and they disagreed on how things should go. Mom wanted me to have this. Dad said he was going to leave this to me. And that can become an important thing, because in our emotions, not that the thing is that big a deal and stuff, but in our emotions, we say, well, they wanted for me and not you. And then it becomes serious, and sometimes it can blow into heated things. We all have stories or know from family stories of things that went haywire after somebody died. We love each other, but at the same time, it can get really crazy once death is at the door. So think about that as you go into the future. Do you have an estate plan? Do you have a last will and testament? If not, why not? And why not think about getting it? If you're concerned about creating generational wealth, then that means you have to plan for your estate and how your estate will be handled. And then you have to teach that to the young, that they need to plan and start planning for the estate. That it's got to be a thing that we know everybody does. Mom did it, she had a will, my dad had a will and stuff, so I know I got to have one and to pass this on. So then that way you can start creating generational wealth. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, is to get that out. I saw a couple articles on it, and I've had some friends and even some of the show hosts that have talked about generational wealth. And a lot of times we talk about it in the terms of just making money, that we want to generate enough money through our own companies and are not working for somebody else in order to have generational wealth. Well, generational wealth isn't just in making money. Generational wealth means in passing the money on and making sure we can do that. Because you could say, well, Prince was working on generational wealth with $156 million, but without a will, that money goes a lot of different ways that maybe Prince didn't even think about or would not have done in his lifetime. He might have said, well, I want it all to go here or split evenly there. And now he has no say over it. It's going to be a court battle, or it was a court battle. I think they've just settled it. DMX's case is still in court. So, if you want to make generational wealth, it's not about just making money. That is wealth. The money you make, the money you have, that is wealth. Generational wealth is the ability to pass that on. And just because you've got $100 million or $100,000 when you die, if you haven't set a plan to pass it on to where you want it to go, you're not creating generational wealth. You just had a lot of money. So think about that as you go forward and stuff. Let's get our financial literacy together. Let's study that. Just like we have to be technology literate, and we all know we should know a little bit about this technology that we work with. Well, we all should know a little bit about our finances and have financial literacy. That's even more important than technology literacy. That's what we got for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Hope that I was able to pass on some information that may be helpful. But this is the BFTAA and More show. I'm your host, George Walker. Glad to be with you today. As I say, broadcasting from my home. Took a break from the studio down there and came out here to the remote location. But join us every Monday and from 5 to 5:45 right here at KUAW Radio. KUAW, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Kansas City's global community radio station. We're here. Stay tuned because at 6 o'clock, we're going to have Shifting Paradigms with our host, B. Michael Long, coming at you. And he's going to give you some more information and tie you in to stuff that you don't get everywhere else. We got news information that's a little bit different right here at KUAW Radio. So that's it for me. We'll see you again next week, 5 to 5:45, BFTAA and More. Have a good night. Bye-bye.